After 60, your heart enters a new stage of life, one that most people aren't prepared for. Heart disease doesn't suddenly appear, it accelerates. And today I'm going to show you why and what you can do about it. Because the truth is, your heart begins to change long before symptoms show up. And once you reach your 60s, those changes become more noticeable, more impactful, and more important to address. For over 20 years, I've helped older adults strengthen their hearts, reverse early artery damage, and stay active well into their 80s and 90s. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your heart. In today's video, you're going to learn why heart disease accelerates after age 60, what physically changes inside your heart and arteries, the warning signs most seniors overlook, and the daily habits that protect your heart, even in your 70s or 80s pecs. These aren't complicated routines or extreme diets or anything unrealistic. They are simple, evidence-based changes that can make your heart stronger starting today. So stay with me until the end, because what you're about to learn could literally extend your life. Your heart has carried you for decades. Now, it's time to understand how to protect it for the decades still ahead. Before we talk about why heart disease hits harder after 60, let's take a moment to understand how the heart itself changes with age. Because aging doesn't just happen on the outside, your heart ages too. Quietly, gradually, predictably. The first major change is that the heart muscle thickens. Over the years, your heart works against higher blood pressure and stiffer arteries. To compensate, the muscle of the left ventricle becomes thicker, just like a bicep grows after lifting heavy weights. But here's the problem. A thicker heart muscle becomes less efficient and it needs more oxygen to do the same work. This is why so many seniors feel fatigue, shortness of breath, or need more rest than they used to. Next, the arteries, the tubes that carry blood, become stiffer and less elastic. When you're young, arteries expand and contract with each heartbeat. But after decades of inflammation, pressure, and tiny injuries, they lose that flexibility. Think of your arteries like rubber bands. New ones stretch easily, older ones barely move. Stiff arteries force your heart to pump harder, which accelerates heart aging even more. With age, the heart's electrical conduction system, the wiring that keeps your heartbeat steady, can slow down or become irregular. This is why seniors experience more extra beats, skipped beats, episodes of atrial fibrillation. Your heart's internal clock simply isn't as sharp as it once was. It's also normal for blood pressure to rise after 60, not because you're doing something wrong, but because stiff arteries increase resistance. Your heart now has to push harder just to get the same amount of blood through your body. This constant pressure accelerates wear and tear on the heart muscle. And finally, oxygen delivery begins to decline. As arteries narrow and stiffen, less oxygen reaches your heart, brain, and muscles. This is why so many older adults notice lower energy, slower recovery, more dizziness, mild shortness of breath. It isn't just aging, it's your heart adapting to a new reality. Think of your heart like an engine with 60 years of mileage. It's still powerful, still capable, still ready to carry you for decades. But now it needs a little more care, a little more attention, and a little more support to run smoothly and safely. And understanding these changes is the first step toward protecting your heart before symptoms ever appear. Now let's talk about the biggest reason heart disease accelerates after 60, arterial stiffness. If there is one change after age 60 that has the greatest impact on heart health, it's arterial stiffness. In fact, most cardiologists agree, after 60, stiff arteries become the heart's biggest enemy. When you're young, your arteries are soft and elastic. They expand easily with each heartbeat, absorbing pressure like shock absorbers. This flexibility protects your heart and keeps blood pressure naturally low. But with decades of stress, inflammation, sugar spikes, and wear, those same arteries begin to stiffen. They lose their ability to stretch. They become narrow, and blood has a harder time moving through. This means your heart must push much harder just to deliver the same amount of blood. Here's what happens next. When arteries stiffen, they can't absorb pressure, so the pressure reflects backward toward the heart. This causes your blood pressure to rise, not because your heart is misbehaving, but because your arteries are no longer cooperating. This is why high blood pressure becomes so common after 60. It's a symptom of stiff vessels, not always a cause. Now, your heart must push harder against that resistance. Over time, the left ventricle, the chamber responsible for pumping blood to the entire body, begins to thicken. This is called left ventricular hypertrophy. At first, it's the heart's way of adapting, but eventually, that thickened muscle becomes stiff itself, less efficient, less flexible, and more prone to failure. This is why heart disease accelerates after 60. Not because your heart suddenly weakens, but because your arteries stop supporting it. It's like forcing a strong engine to pump through clogged pipes. Eventually, the engine grows tired, not because it's broken, but because the system around it has changed. Understanding this shift is the key to protecting your heart as you age. Now that you know how stiff arteries strain the heart, let's talk about why inflammation increases after 60 and why it accelerates this entire process. One of the biggest reasons heart disease becomes more common and more dangerous after 60 is something called inflammaging. It's a term scientists use to describe low-grade chronic inflammation that slowly builds up in the body as we get older. Not the kind you feel, but the kind that quietly damages your arteries day after day, year after year. When you're younger, inflammation rises and falls quickly. Your immune system handles injuries efficiently. But after 60, that system becomes less precise. Small inflammatory reactions take longer to heal. Your body stays in a constant state of low alarm. This persistent inflammation weakens the artery lining and makes it easier for plaque to attach and grow. On top of that, you've lived through decades of oxidative stress. Every day, your body is exposed to sugar spikes, processed foods, pollution, stress hormones, lack of sleep, even emotional stress. Over decades, these tiny hits accumulate. Free radicals, unstable molecules scratch and irritate the lining of your arteries like sandpaper over time. Your body tries to repair those scratches with cholesterol and calcium, and that's how plaque forms faster after 60. Another change after 60 is that the immune system becomes less efficient. Immune cells don't react as quickly, don't repair as effectively, and may even trigger accidental inflammation while trying to help. This creates a cycle. Inflammation, more plaque, plaque, more inflammation. A cycle that speeds up with age if we don't intervene. Because of inflammaging, oxidative stress, and a slower immune response, plaque doesn't just form, it grows faster after 60. This is why someone can be fine at 55 and suddenly see major cardiovascular changes by 65. It's not sudden, it's a buildup reaching a tipping point. But here's the hopeful part. If inflammation accelerates heart disease, then lowering inflammation can slow or even reverse the process. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Another major reason heart disease hits harder after 60 has to do with hormones. Hormones don't just affect mood or metabolism. They also play a powerful role in keeping your arteries flexible and your heart protected. Let's look at what happens as these levels change with age. For women, the biggest change is the sharp drop in estrogen that happens during and after menopause. Estrogen is not only a reproductive hormone, it actually protects the arteries that keeps blood vessels flexible and helps maintain healthy cholesterol levels. So when estrogen levels fall, the risk of heart disease rises quickly. This is why heart disease, which used to be far more common in men, suddenly becomes equal or even higher in women after menopause. For men, the key change is the gradual decrease in testosterone. Lower testosterone isn't just about energy or libido. It affects fat storage, blood sugar control, muscle mass, inflammation levels. When testosterone drops, men often experience more belly fat, higher insulin resistance, increased inflammation, all of which speed up arterial stiffening and plaque growth. What both hormones have in common, both estrogen and testosterone, help the artery walls stay flexible, responsive, able to dilate easily. As these hormones decline with age, arteries lose elasticity, vessels stiffen more quickly, blood pressure rises, and the heart must work harder with every beat. These hormonal changes are completely natural. They're part of aging. But understanding them helps you make smarter choices to protect your heart. Because hormones may decline, but your ability to strengthen your heart does not. Next, we'll look at the hidden conditions that become far more common after 60 and often go undetected until they cause serious damage. Now, let's talk about the silent conditions that become far more common after 60 and quietly accelerate heart disease without obvious warning. These are the triggers that don't always cause pain, but cause damage all the same. And the most important part, these conditions don't just add up, they multiply each other. High blood pressure often shows no symptoms, yet it's one of the biggest drivers of heart disease in seniors. As arteries stiffen, the pressure climbs. The heart must push harder, and over time, that strain thickens the heart muscle and increases the risk of stroke and heart failure. Next is type 2 diabetes, or even prediabetes, which affects nearly half of adults over 60. High blood sugar acts like tiny shards of glass, scratching the artery lining and accelerating plaque buildup. Insulin resistance also increases inflammation and makes cholesterol more dangerous. Cholesterol imbalances become more common with age. High LDL sneaks into the artery wall, while low HDL means your body can't remove it effectively. This combination makes plaque form faster and become more unstable, increasing the risk of clotting. Sleep apnea is another silent threat. When breathing repeatedly stops during sleep, oxygen levels plummet, your blood pressure spikes, your heart rhythm becomes unstable, and your arteries become more inflamed. Most seniors with sleep apnea don't even know they have it. Chronic stress, whether from caregiving, finances, loneliness, or daily worries, keeps your stress hormones elevated. Cortisol tightens blood vessels, raises blood pressure, and increases inflammation throughout your body. The heart is especially sensitive to these constant hormonal surges. And finally, vitamin D deficiency. It becomes extremely common after 60 because the skin absorbs less sunlight and the kidneys become less efficient at processing vitamin D. Vitamin D plays a role in inflammation control, immune function, and blood vessel health, so low levels can quietly worsen heart disease risk. These hidden conditions often work together, and when they do, the impact on your heart is multiplied, not just added. But the good news is, every one of them is detectable, treatable, and improvable with the right lifestyle and medical care. Now let's look at the early symptoms many seniors mistake for normal aging, but are actually signs their heart needs help. One of the biggest challenges I see in my patients over 60 is that they often dismiss early heart symptoms as just getting older. But let me tell you something important. What feels like normal aging is often your heart asking for help. If you're feeling unusually tired, even after a full night's sleep, or if everyday tasks take more energy than before, that can be a sign your heart isn't pumping efficiently and your muscles aren't receiving enough oxygen. Dizziness isn't just a balance issue. It can mean reduced blood flow to your brain or changes in your heart rhythm. If you get winded climbing stairs, walking uphill, or even talking too long, that's not just age. It's often one of the earliest signs that your heart is struggling to keep up. Swelling in your legs, feet, or ankles can indicate your heart isn't pumping blood efficiently and fluid is building up. This is a classic early sign of heart failure, and many seniors ignore it for years. A fluttering, racing, or skipping heartbeat, especially if it comes with fatigue or dizziness, can signal atrial fibrillation or other electrical changes in the heart. These issues become far more common after 60. And finally, chest pressure. Not always pain. Sometimes it's a heaviness, tightness, or mild ache that comes and goes. If it eases with rest, that's a warning sign your heart isn't getting enough oxygen during activity. These symptoms may seem small, but together they paint a very clear picture. Your heart is talking to you. Don't ignore it. Don't assume it's age, because catching these signs early can prevent a heart attack, a stroke, or years of progressive heart failure. So now that you understand why heart disease accelerates after 60, let's talk about what you can do to protect your heart starting today. Because here's the truth. I want you to hear clearly. Your age may rise, but your heart age is something you can control. With the right habits, you can strengthen your heart at 60, at 70, even at 80 or beyond. Start with what you eat. Choose anti-inflammatory whole foods that nourish your arteries. Leafy greens, berries, olive oil, avocado, nuts, beans, salmon, and other fatty fish. These foods calm inflammation, stabilize cholesterol, and support flexible, healthy arteries. And remember, sugar and processed foods do the exact opposite. They inflame the body and age the heart faster. Next, Walk every day. Just 20 to 30 minutes improves circulation, lowers blood pressure, and boosts artery flexibility. Even light movement makes a difference. Your heart loves consistency more than intensity. Strength training maintains muscle, improves insulin sensitivity, and reduces the workload on your heart. You don't need heavy weights. Resistance bands or light dumbbells are enough. Drink water throughout the day to keep your blood flowing smoothly. And check your blood pressure regularly. High blood pressure is silent, but it's one of the most important things you can control. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. During sleep, your heart rate lowers, your vessels relax, and your body repairs inflammation. Poor sleep is one of the fastest ways to accelerate heart aging. Stress tightens blood vessels, but just a few minutes of deep breathing or meditation helps them open again. Gratitude, as simple as writing down 3 good things each morning, lowers stress hormones and protects your heart. Be proactive with your health. Ask your doctor about these tests: cholesterol panel, A1C for blood sugar, sleep apnea evaluation, coronary calcium score, a direct measure of plaque, regular blood pressure checks. These tests catch problems early, long before symptoms appear. You don't need perfection, you just need consistency. Every healthy choice you make, every walk, every meal, every night of good sleep tells your heart, I'm taking care of you. And trust me, your heart will return the favor. We've covered a lot today, and if there's one message I want you to take with you, it's this. Heart disease hits harder after 60, but it's not inevitable. Understanding how your body changes is the first step to protecting your future and keeping your heart strong for years to come. You now know why the heart ages, why arteries stiffen, why inflammation rises, and which conditions become more common. But more importantly, you know exactly what you can do about it. Every choice you make, every healthy meal, every walk, every night of good sleep, every moment of calm helps your heart stay flexible, resilient, and young. And I want you to remember something important. Your heart doesn't retire, and neither should your health. Take action, stay consistent, and your heart can stay strong for decades to come. Comment below what part of heart aging surprised you the most. I read every comment personally, and your story might help someone else take the first step. And if you found this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more doctor-led guidance to protect your heart and live your best years yet. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.